The following may contain language that is not suitable for all audiences. It's time. For us.
It's the biggest, baddest podcast in all the world.
Isn't that the beginning of a song?
What?
It's time for us or some shit?
I don't know, bro.
Oh, I don't know. So, Low Fact Podcast, us.
Drinking mead.
Drinking mead. I don't know. I mean, I really liked it the very first time I had some.
Right.
And now it's just like quickly going downhill.
I wonder why. So do you like it chilled or not chilled?
Not chilled is better, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not really into drinking.
I think it's too sweet for you.
I don't know. I eat the hell out of ice cream.
Yeah, but I can see this growing on me. He says as he drinks out of his Lord of the Rings party glass.
So, we've been absent a bit.
And also our editor has been very, very remiss.
But that's okay, because we're back. We're bad. I almost started off with a line from Lethal Weapon 2. Or one of the Lethal Weapons.
What is it?
You know, we're back, we're bad. And then I think that Joe Pesci says that or something. And then Mel Gibson says something like, he's black, I'm mad.
I think it's got to be 3.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't remember if Pesci was in 2 or 3.
He was in 3. And 4.
Okay. Well, it might even be 4 then. Those are fucking great movies.
They're pretty fun.
They stand up too. I still like watching those movies.
I like the first one, the second one.
When Mel Gibson's all being all badass.
Not even about Mel Gibson, I just like the first 2.
Blinking as he's firing his guns.
Pistols.
Yeah.
Come on, man, didn't you ever see Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah.
This is my rifle, this is my gun.
What's the rest of it?
This one's for fighting, this one's for fun. Are you attempting to...
No, I was just thinking about all the... I was just thinking about guns and gun deaths. Just how it's funny that, like, in the places where the more gun control they have, the higher the fucking incidence of murders and shit.
Yeah, because they use other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But...
Or there's more illegal guns.
Well, wouldn't they all be illegal?
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about countries. Yeah.
You know? You're talking about...
I'm talking about states in America. I'm talking about cities like Chicago.
Oh, Chicago.
New York.
Yeah, well...
I know you don't really talk about the guns thing.
Well, I've been trying to stay away from politics and trying to ignore the news. You know, with varying degrees of success. I mean, you can't really ignore the news, considering I turn on NPR to fall asleep.
Right. Well, the news is everywhere too.
But I've decided that it's for my own sanity. I don't know about anybody else's. I'm just not going to pay attention. I'm not gonna play. And part of that is really embedded in a personal philosophy of mine. As everyone knows, you know, I harp on about how unsuccessful I am and do-da. And so, you know, not too long ago I was thinking about it and I was like, look, I've spent the better part of 3, maybe 4 decades trying to be included.
Included.
Yeah. Part of the system, what have you, society, whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I thought back then that I would be a great asset.
Mm-hmm.
Funnily enough, it seems that I'm the only one that thinks that, considering my track record. And, you know, I've kind of just, you know, just came up came to the conclusion that that amount of time of trying is long enough. You know, I ain't got what you're supposed to get. Screw it. I'm not going to try to get it anymore. Any of it.
So what happens now? Probably not much different.
I don't see how anything's different. The only thing different is I'm not spending loads of time thinking about what I can do to be more professionally successful,
Right.
Socially successful, whatever that's supposed to look like or what have you. I'm just of the opinion, you know what, screw it.
So do you think that when people are uber successful, that they're spending a whole lot of time thinking about all that shit?
I think.
Or do you think some people are just kind of like born into it in the sense that they have their, they have their connections, they have their like social standing, it's all just kind of.
Well, I'm sure everybody works hard at it. I don't mean to sit there and say, oh, you just got hit by this lucky stick, so now you got your wife, your kids, your good job, or your boatloads of cash or whatever.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, I'm pretty sure if I were in a position that most people would think that I should be in, or would be in, I would be sitting there in the times when I thought about it, would just be patting myself on the back about how hard I worked to get what I got.
Yeah.
But being on the flip side of that, trying very hard and, not having many things fall into place, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I should have just tried harder, and that's like the whole that's the whole zealots philosophy. And when I say zealots philosophy, I think about the people that sit there and say, well, with the argument about communism or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody's like, well, it didn't work, and then the answer's always. And when I was in college, I said the same thing, because I was when I was in college, I did think that socialism or communism might be a good thing. I mean, if you read it and it says like, people will be much happier, there will be lots of cooperation, all that. That sounds frickin' great.
Yeah.
And then the counter arguments are always like, oh, well, it takes away people's incentives. Oh, it's never worked before. Then the answer of the zealot is, well, maybe it hasn't been tried as completely as it should have. And, to take that analogy into my life, I'm like, I don't think I could try any more completely than I've been trying since, my late teens.
Yeah, but there's some things that there's some things you're not willing to do though. Right? Like you could take advantage of people like the best of them. Like if you really wanted to.
Well, it's not even if
you could. Yes, you could make that choice and say, you know what, I'm going to fuck over a whole lot of people to get ahead.
Yes,
you could do it.
I have the skill set to be an incredibly great sociopath.
Right, but you choose not to do that.
Yeah, but when you say, yeah, but you're not. There are things that you choose not to do. You make it sound like there are palatable or rational or reasonable choices.
Well, no, I'm not saying that they're palatable or reasonable. I'm just saying you've chosen not to do that to get ahead. Right?
Well, thinking about it, I don't know if it's necessarily a choice, right? I mean,
well, it is a choice. Isn't that the whole thing? Is that we have free choice? We have freedom of choice.
It's a choice in that, yeah, it's a choice, but it's one of those. It's a fake choice. Everything that I am that makes me me, would I go against all that to, for example, if the choice were to sleep around and lie, which I'm not saying that that's what people have to do.
Right.
But.
I don't know, man.
What?
Well, sometimes I feel like the people that are getting ahead, I feel like that might be what's going on.
Could be, but
we'll never know.
we don't know the whole story, so I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh, so and so got where he got."
He must have.
Right. I'm not going to play that game.
Well, yeah, you don't know.
Exactly.
But you can speculate.
So, okay, fine. Everyone can.
Yeah.
But that type of speculation doesn't do me any good in my personal situation.
Yeah.
So I don't know what more I could have done.
Mm-hmm.
But there are things about me that don't lend themselves to that. I personally think that I can kiss ass and be as big of a sycophant as anybody else. Oddly enough, it seems that I'm the only person that thinks that. But, I'm not going to be bullied. And I'm not going to bully.
Yeah.
So maybe that has something to do with it. But again, I don't really care about any of the particular reasons.
Yeah.
It's been too long. If I was at this point maybe 20 or 30 years ago, 30 years ago is too long. If I were at this point like maybe 20, 25 years ago, then no, because even then I had those choices.
Now, if you had the ability, if you had the benefit of hindsight, and you knew that like you would have to, that there was to use your expression, if you could go back in time, if you knew that you would be here and you could go back in time 20 years and be like, well, in order to get ahead, I got to do some of this other stuff. You're not going to do that.
If it was guaranteed,
yeah,
I'd have.
But then it's like it's like making the deal with Satan thing.
Well, not even that. If it was guaranteed,
yeah,
I'd have to think about that even more seriously than I would.
Right. Like if you're like, well, at this point in time, we're going to go back in 20 years, and at this point in time, if you fuck these people over, if you do this, if you do that,
or if you do whatever.
Yeah. Then you're going to have like.
And these are personally odious choices.
Right.
Again, if it was guaranteed, and I know what I know now,
I still wouldn't do it.
I probably still wouldn't do it because knowing what I know now, as a middle-aged person,
yeah,
even for the guarantee of worldly riches or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I know that there's a high psychological cost to that.
Yeah.
Because I've met people.
Well, we were just watching the thing on. It's all fleeting too. That stuff. Fame,
more
success,
more fleeting than you could ever imagine.
And then you look at somebody where you look at a person. And I'm not going to talk about anybody, but then you look at a person. You look at a documentary about some person that's like super super successful, right? That did everything. And everybody like points to them as the epitome of like, this is the guy or the gal that did everything, right? And then you look at them in some documentary and you're just like, their life is not. They seem like a really lonely person,
and
right? It seems like and you're just looking at it going, good Lord.
Well, also, and the only thing that keeps them going seems to be their low level of emotional intelligence, their low level of actual intelligence, and their shallowness. And even then, you can tell that their soul is pretty tainted.
Yeah. So that begs the question of, does it beg the question?
It raises the question.
It raises the question of like, why are we, why are these things put up on a pedestal? Right, like why are these people used as the example of the epitome of success?
I personally think it's to keep the system going. We're all very important treasures on an individual level to a very small number of other individuals. Your parents, your siblings, your small extended family, and very close friends, you are a treasure. right? I'm talking about you in particular as well as any other individual.
Yeah.
You were a treasure.
I suppose.
Oh, come on. Don't you think that if something were to happen to you, it would not devastate those people that are very close to you?
Yeah.
Think about a soldier who dies in combat. And I'm thinking about this because I remember when I was in high school, I knew a woman who was, she was an old lady by then, but one of her brothers was killed on D-Day.
Yeah.
And this woman who this happened to, her brother died when this woman was probably 10.
Yeah. Devastating.
And she was in her 70s.
Talking about it.
Like, that pain was fresh.
Yeah.
Me as some high school student, college student, history student, reading about the, tens of thousands of people that died on D-Day, I'm like, okay.
Right. You're like, you don't have any.
So, and that's the, I don't know if conundrum's the right word, but yeah, on an individual basis, we are all irreplaceable treasures.
That's the crux of it.
Thank you. But as a whole, right, the U.S. Army needed that guy to go.
Right.
And all those other tens of thousands, well, I guess, World War II, how many people?
Was it like a million? A million troops?
U.S., I think World War II was something like 400,000.
400,000 troops?
Yeah.
What, died or were serving?
Died.
Wow.
I think total number of people mobilized in the armed forces for World War II was
Who lost the most? Was it the Russians?
Russians lost an awful lot.
It was millions, right?
Yeah, but that wasn't just fighting Germans. It was also Stalin kind of killing off his own people.
Yeah. What a psycho.
But he wanted to punish. I think he had an axe to grind, and boy did he grind it.
Yep.
So that's the thing as a group, right? So when you hear like the old Indian or Aboriginal wisdom, I remember hearing like, oh yeah, the wolf keeps the herd strong. The herd being like the herd of caribou.
And that's all very well if you're not somebody in the herd that gets picked off.
Yeah, that's my point. So in order for the herd to be strong, in order for society to keep going and benefit way more other people, there's going to be people that fall and that get crushed.
What if you don't want to be? What if you're not part of the herd though?
Well, that was my conundrum, right?
Right.
I'm not part of the herd as much as I tried to be. I probably am. I'm like an outlier or whatever, right?
Yeah, you're probably like more part of the herd than you think you are.
Well, no, I'm more part of the herd than I
would like to admit.
Well, no, I'm more part of the herd than I'm aware of.
Mm.
But I'm supposed to be in the beehive. I'm supposed to be like pretty high up.
Man, I'm so drunk.
Or higher up. It's not going to work on me. You're not cute enough.
Man, that meat is like, whoa.
So that's the thing. So when you say you see all that, it's like, yeah, the system wants to churn people out. It's like the to use another.
But what's the fuck? Like what? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, finish what you're gonna say. You're gonna use an analogy or something?
It's a dumb analogy, and it's really unnecessary. So were you about to say what's the point?
No, just to say like, where does it fucking get you? Being part of the herd though, because ultimately you're gonna get fucked, right? Like as soon as things get hard, it's not like the system's it's not like the system's your parents, right? It's not like it's gonna look after you, right? Like now is the perfect example, right? Like there was a whole lot of decisions made, there was a whole lot of hiring done, there was a whole lot of investing made, just massive like things, just just some things done economically that were crazy, and now there's like a whole lot of people paying the price, right? Employees. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
getting laid off, right? And so it's going to be pretty hard for a while. And I'm pretty sure like a lot of those people never thought it would happen to them.
Well, nobody
They
ever
were
does.
probably like, well, I did everything I need to do. Like I'm a good person. I'm a good citizen. I pay my taxes. I got my wife. I got my 2.5 children. I got my dog. I pay my mortgage. And now I don't have a job.
I think that's a little bit different, though.
It's different.
Well, in your scenario, it's about people who are pretty close to the top, playing with the levers of power, doing whatever they can to keep playing with the levers of power.
Right.
So maybe that's the rub, right? There's going to be a very few number and percentage of people who get to play,
Yeah.
and in order for them to play, everybody else has to play.
But you have like,
And there's a benefit to a lot of those people. Everybody playing.
okay.
So like if you look at dictatorial or authoritarian regimes like North Korea,
Yeah.
seems like most of those people are just FUCT fucked.
Oh yeah, unless you're part of the, what is it, 1%?
Not even that, unless you're in that family, and even
less than 1%.
and even those people are living pretty tough. But,
Yeah. Oh, you mean not the people who are the ruling class aren't living tough?
I think even in the ruling class. Okay, I guess we have to define ruling class. That's the thing, because a lot of the time, we talk about stuff, and I'm talking about we in general, not just you and me.
Yeah.
We talk about stuff thinking we're speaking the same language or have the same definitions for the same words.
I say ruling class is whoever's like making the decisions.
So like the top like 50
So if
people.
it's in North Korea, it's like, what's his name?
Kim Jong-un,
Kim Jong-un, and then it's like
his sister.
just a sister, and then I guess all the military folks, the brass.
It's his family.
Right.
So the Kim family that are in the positions, and even within that family, they're not all up there,
Right.
I think it's
But there's also the military too, right?
well they're the hangers-on
Yeah.
who are close to the power,
Right.
but then they have their own little power
Well, that's not many people.
at the very tippy top. No,
How many people live in North Korea? Well, nobody knows.
I have no idea. I want to say it's something like tens of millions.
Right. Well, that's a very, very, very small percentage. Then it's not 1%.
Yeah, but even to get enough to eat, which you probably won't get, but even to get something to eat that's edible, you have to be part of
Right.
that infrastructure. like to live in the capital city of Pyongyang,
Yeah.
you have to be well within the party elite.
So nobody else lives in Pyongyang, but
No.
everyone else is just servants and vassals, and
Even them.
well, the servants and vassals are probably maybe getting the hand-me-down stuff.
Yeah, but even then, to be a servant or vassal, you have to be politically cleared.
Right. And everybody else is fucking starving.
Eating grass, I don't know. That's why like in the Eastern communist countries, like when at the end of the Vietnam War, when the communists took over, they were killing off people that did like laundry for GIs.
That's messed up.
Because they're thinking the thing, right? In order to even get like a donut, the figurative equivalent of a donut, you have to toe the line, the party line. So they're thinking, well, that's the way it goes in that structure too. So if you did dishes, if you worked as a maid for some American officer or worked in the consulate or whatever, you must be anti-us, so we need to get rid of you. And that's like hyper society. It's not the correct term, but it's like it's a hyper version of what I'm talking about.
Right.
If you want to be in society, you got to do all these things, And the dirty little secret is that you can do all those things and it still might not happen. The hope is that it doesn't happen for a very small number of people, a very small percentage, so it's not noticeable.
So you have a large group that's just getting by.
I think ideally, yeah. If I was at the top playing with the levers of power, I would want 99% of the people to be just getting enough food and shelter, not to be homeless and starving.
Which is kind of what's going on here.
At the lower echelons, right? I mean, it's getting to the point where there's only two kinds of people: the people at the very tippy top and everybody else. And that, if you're one of the tippy top, that's kind of what you want.
So do you think that companies, large companies, they only care about, it's just about profits, right, for those guys?
If you're going,
your shareholders, and
if you're going off the model that people learn in college about business,
yeah,
the corporation, then yes, it has to be the only purpose of a corporation is to maximize profit.
So those guys are probably quite happy about millions and millions of people coming across the border.
If it maximizes profit.
Yeah, because it means cheap labor.
Again, whatever it means, we can't. There's too many things that it means.
Yeah.
So if it maximizes profit, and they're rational folks who bought into the idea of a corporate structure, then yes.
Right.
The reason why I dislike the corporate structure is because, or large organizations, is because it forces, number one, it grants way too much power to a very small number of people at the very tippy top who are no smarter than I am. Loads of goodies. On top of being no smarter than I am, they are way more shallow because of the situation they're in.
Right.
I think the only difference between me and aesthetic and the Playboy Prince is situation, and a lot of people don't want to admit that. Right? The only difference between to a God-fearing religious person and a hedonistic ne'er-do-well
is the hedonistic ne'er has access.
Is situation. Is your location in your geographic location in the society, or your figurative location. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one. Yeah. And possibly age. I mean, you couldn't, 18-year-old me as opposed to me now. Me now cannot be tempted like 18-year-old me could have.
Yeah.
Right? You give me now $10 billion, I think I'd do way more good with it, way less hedonistic drugs with it, or whatever.
Right.
Than 18-year-old me. 18-year-old me, you give $10 billion, I would have exploded in a fury of sexual perversion. It could have been so bad they might have named a sexually transmitted disease after 18-year-old me. What?
That's just a funny thought.
But that's the way it is. I don't know what point we're trying to make.
I don't know. I just think things are it's just not good.
Well, I don't think things are any worse. Well, no. Let me take that back. The only reason why I think things have a potential to be much worse now than ever before is because I think there are very strict natural limits to stuff in order for an organism to keep on going. So, take a society. You can only have a small number and small percentage of ne'er-do-wells. People not doing.
Right.
For the whole to go. Once you cross that point, then it's going to break down. And I personally feel that maybe that point is starting to get closer and closer to the point of it breaking down. So if 80% of the people have to do certain thing, buy in and do a certain thing, and 20% of those people do most of the work, it's not enough that you got 20% of those people doing most of the work. That whole 80 has to kind of like, plod.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say that, 20% of people are still working their asses off, or as one person we met years ago used to say, working their tits off,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was the funniest statement. And it was even funnier because a woman said it, so I was like, what? And it was this prim and proper, like, Chanel handbag carrying type of chick too.
Working her tits off.
And it's like, oh, so-and-so's working his tits off. I was like, what the hell? Those 20% can still be working their tits off if the other 60 aren't kind of towing. I think it might not work, and it's looking like, because more and more there are people doing things that aren't helpful for everybody.
Right.
And this is being said by someone who don't even want his help. So I'm like, y'all can all go to hell anyway. But when there's a greater than average cohort in number of folks sitting there going, well, I can just sit around, or I want to be social media famous, or whatever it is that everyone's like picking at.
Right.
I just want to get mine.
Mm-hmm.
The idea may be that, if you're the one working hard to get yours, then things will all kind of work out. That's the whole philosophy of our system of law, the adversarial system, right? When two opposing sides go at it vigorously, trying to point out their side, then the truth will come out because everyone's like digging and clawing to do things. But you and I, as students of the law, both know that's not the case.
The truth doesn't.
Yeah,
no, it's whoever's got the most resources.
Well, here it is. And even more so in the Commonwealth countries where loser pays.
Yeah.
So, in a situation where winner pays, you still have to have, like, and even then, there are people that don't try. Because winner might get everything.
So if you're one of the people who's at the top,
mm-hmm.
and you're sitting there like giving handouts to everybody,
mm-hmm.
right? Like the COVID thing,
or
like
whatever.
the printing of money, whatever. And they're just sending checks to people, right? That's kind of what you're kind of bringing that about. You're maximizing the number of ne'er-do-wells, right? The people that are going to sit there and say, well, I don't want to. Why do I want to go and like bust my ass for 40 or 50 hours a week, right? And some blue collar job to get a paycheck when the government can just send me a check, right? Like you're kind of bringing that about, aren't you?
Well, I think first we have to operate on the same premises, right? Or same premise. So even if you are bringing that about as someone who's playing with the levers,
mm-hmm.
Are the people playing with the levers want things to be, what do they want?
Well, they just want to keep their power.
They just want to keep playing with the levers.
Right.
Okay, so then they don't give a fuck about society either.
Yeah, but going back to your example of like where you have like a smaller and smaller percentage that's actually working, and a larger and larger percentage of ne'er-do-wells, then at some point that's bad for the people who are pulling the levers because
the people
who are working are going to sit there and say, well, I've had enough.
Right, but as a person playing with the levers,
yeah,
is that point going to happen before I die?
I don't know.
Well, the answer is probably not.
Well, you hope it's not.
Okay, so you hope it's not. So if
Yeah.
I'm like 60, 70 years old playing with the levers,
Yeah.
and I want to keep playing with the levers,
If you're Warren Buffett.
or whoever, right? I want to keep playing with the levers. Statistically, if I'm 70, I've got maybe a decade, right?
So you're probably not that worried.
Well, if my to use the actor's phrase, like, what's my motivation? If my motivation is to keep playing with those levers,
Yeah.
and statistically I've only got 10 more years,
Mm-hmm.
who cares? Funnily enough.
But you don't know.
So, Okay, I don't.
I mean,
that's a given. That's a given. Yeah. So I don't know. But 18-year-old me didn't know this was going to happen this way. So should have 18-year-old me been like, you know what, screw it, I can quit now and just kind of be.
Mm-hmm.
18-year-old me still spent 30 plus years digging and clawing.
Yeah.
Going to college, going to grad school, toughing it out in a soul sucking profession, putting in more hours than medical residents.
Yeah. Sure aren't really painting a very, very chipper picture of being an attorney.
It's still better than being a coal miner or a miner in Indonesia. They gotta do that shit by hand, 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
Digging shit with my hands.
Yeah.
For what? Just to get enough money so that I can go to sleep without being starving?
Yeah, if that person was listening, they'd be like, "Oh, poor."
Yeah, cry me a river.
Poor wealthy American.
Yeah.
Poor well-fed, wealthy, home-owning American.
That's why you are weak. But so yeah, I mean, look, I don't mean to seem like I'm disparaging or demeaning your comment of you don't know. Because yes, that is a given. You're right. I don't know. But I've got enough intellect and foresight to play the odds. And if I were playing with the levers of power right now, even at the age I am now, number one, I wouldn't have the thoughts that I have.
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't give a shit. You would not give a shit about the sheep and goats, as you like to put it.
I just want to make sure those sheep and goats do what I say. So if I were playing with the levers of power as a middle-aged person, not someone in their 70s, someone with potentially 30 to 40 more years to pal around on the planet, I think I would be hard-pressed to be like, we need to stop, because you can't stop. You can't stop a train, let alone a country, on a dime.
Yeah.
Because even with my levers, I've got people yapping and nipping at my heels underneath, and I gotta dole out my money and my whatever to underlings, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
They're all playing with their levers too. They might not want to get any higher or lower, but they're playing with their levers. So what everybody in the system is trying to do is ensure the continuation of the system, and they're forgetting that every frickin' individual on earth, from the lowliest drug-crazed crack whore to the grand poobah, is an irreplaceable treasure to somebody.
Your point being what?
My point being that if that's the thing that most of us always forget.
No matter how much we sit there and point the finger at somebody and say that's a despicable person,
that person was and maybe still is an irreplaceable treasure to somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, we were joking around with some of your buddies from your previous work spot, talking about oh, this dumbass person did this, did that, blah blah. They're so stupid, and I was all ready to push them down the stairs or whatever. And they're funny. It's funny talk. But that person that we're talking about is an irreplaceable treasure to somebody.
I have a hard time with that because I think I don't know whether I like to look down on people, but it's easy to do. It's easy to look down on somebody.
I'm not even saying that you shouldn't, because each one of those irreplaceable treasures probably made some decisions that helped them along to being where they are.
Yeah.
They might not have been good ones. They might not have even been conscious. They might have just been victims of circumstance, which, So
you're not judging those people?
No, because we all love to sit there and talk about victims of circumstance and hold up something when, when Farm Aid needs to come out, it's not the actual farming companies, which are these gigantic agribusinesses.
Mm-hmm.
It's that person who's barely getting by, talking about how they've been on their family farm for 6 generations. And farming, I'll tell you, is a hard frickin' life.
Yeah.
You work like crazy and you barely make enough money
Yeah.
to get by. A lot of those people have farm and work another job. Hell, if you listen to Loretta Lynn's song, right?
The coal miner's daughter.
Her daddy farmed, and then at night he was like a coal miner.
Oh, he did both.
Yeah, just to put enough on the
I
table.
thought he was just a coal miner.
No,
Shit.
that's tough living, and that's why I dislike these giant organizations that try to keep you away from doing anything. When I say doing anything, I don't like the fact that there are entities that try to only make you an employee.
Right.
As
You can't do anything else.
right, as if that's going to like save you.
Which it's not. It's not going to save you. That's the thing.
I like it better if there are people out working for themselves, like, having their own small businesses and doing this and that. I don't like Amazon. I don't like Walmart, never did.
Yeah.
Do I shop there? Well, where else am I going to get the stuff? I don't know how to make laundry soap.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will say here with great conviction, if I knew how and could, I would make my own frickin' detergent.
You would.
And my own toilet paper. I would raise all my food. I'm trying not to go off into some weird southern black voice, but I would do everything that I would do all that.
Yeah.
Now, a person 200 years ago couldn't do that. Do you think some person who like the closest I've ever been to farming and ranching was when I was growing up in high school? There was a ranch right next door to my subdivision.
But that's why and like I know we're kind of out of time, and maybe we can talk about this on another podcast. But
We should.
just the whole idea of this like this anti-farming movement. Where a lot of the greenies are like, oh, we need to change the way farming's done. We need to do this. We need to do that. And I'm like, how are you going to eat?
Oh, they're going to eat just fine.
Well, what are they going to eat if there's no farming?
No, they're going to eat just fine. They want the other 80% of us to be like,
Well, no, but they're not necessarily going to eat just fine, because if there's no farming,
well, they think they're going to eat just fine.
if there's no farming, then there's nothing coming on it. And if there's no farming, or if you say, oh, we need to do away with fossil fuels, if there's no fossil fuels, there's no fucking trucks and supply chain. In other words, you go to you go to the fucking supermarket in your city, and there's not going to be any food.
Well, you're thinking about the 80% of us that they're thinking about, well, if we stop all this, there might be enough food for 10% of us. And since I'm in the 1%, there's enough for me and all my minions.
Well, what makes that person think that they're going to be part of that 1% or 10%?
Galactic stupidity. And past history. Well,
Right.
Things are going great for me now. Why should it change?
It makes no sense.
And I don't think it was ever supposed to.
But I see these kids saying shit like that, and I'm like, you're a fucking dumbass.
Well,
What are you going to eat?
at some point, I would like to be the observer, eating my apple, going, well, now you're starving, motherfucker. What do you want?
They want your apple.
Too bad. You wanted this thing.
Did they?
The whole point.
Do they really want it though? I mean, that's the funny thing is, it's like you say that, like I always complain about the situation here in Santa Monica.
Uh-huh.
Rampant homelessness,
Uh-huh.
drug use,
Uh-huh.
crime,
Uh-huh.
businesses leaving.
Uh-huh.
Like Santa Monica is a shit show,
Uh-huh.
right? And you're like, well, that's what they wanted. Like they being what the like. I'm like, do they really want that?
Well,
You say that's what they wanted.
because I'm going from a standpoint of logic. They are not. They're like, no, I did not want this. But the actions that you take pretty much lead to this road.
Right.
When I say that's what you wanted,
You don't
that's
really
what they
mean
wanted.
it. That's not really what they wanted.
That's not what they literally wanted. But
Okay.
also, I believe, and this is me with magical thinking maybe, those are also the types of people where their bacon's been saved. There are people, we all know them. Hell, some of us are them. that just magoo their way through life. Great gig if you can get it.
Magoo.
Dude, I know, and this is an
I
empirical
always think
study.
of Homer Simpson when you say Magoo.
Same deal. I think a good chunk, probably over half of us, are like that. Pretty much whatever we want, whenever we wanted it, in spite of our stupidity
We got it.
and stupid, not just stupidity, but stupid actions. It just kind of happens. I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, I'm this guy that worked fucking hard for my 2 bushels of wheat or anything.
That is extraordinary hubris, though, when you think about it.
What?
The fact that if you're a person that just kind of got everything that you always needed when you wanted it, and then
Or when you needed it, even?
when you needed it, and then just sit there and say, well, I'm the master of my own destiny.
That is I think pretty close to 100% of us, though.
Then human beings are stupid.
Get no argument from me there. So thank you very much for hanging out with us as long as you've hung out. Please like, subscribe, and do all the things that the other commercial podcast places say that you should do to ensure great success.
We don't do any of that stuff.
Don't know what that means, but
We're going to find out.
I don't really. Well, okay, you're going to find out. But,
Yeah.
But I'm really happy that people are kind of listening and racking up our views. Which thanks to you guys, that's really the only reason why we keep doing this.
Yeah.
And let us be like Krusty the Crown. Give us a chance to sell out.
And now I'm going to go sober up and we're going to go barbecue.
Yay!